Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In today's session, we will take or we will listen to a conversation between two people and we will understand some real talk. What do you mean by real talk? Words that we might use in everyday situations, in casual conversation. And in the second part, we will take a pronunciation practice. So let's get started. Let's start with the conversation part, and this is actually a conversation between Edward and his grandma. So let's listen, and we need to understand the meaning of the highlighted words in blue: logging, ditch, check out, go with the flow, and hoopla. So let's listen.
Grandma, you've been lugging that book around all weekend.
If I want to read it, what choice do I have?
You can ditch the book and get an electronic book reader.
A what?
An electronic book reader. They're these great little devices that let you read books electronically. So you read on screen instead of on paper.
But I like reading on paper.
Trust me, Grandma. In a few years, no one is going to be reading books printed on paper anymore. Paper books will have disappeared.
I don't like all this new technology. I'm happy with things the way they are.
You really should check out ebook readers. One of the advantages is that you can buy, download, and start reading a book in minutes. Another great thing about it is that you can carry hundreds of books with you without it being heavy.
Why would I want to carry hundreds of books around with me?
Grandma, I'm sure if you just gave it a try, you'd find that you actually prefer it. Why not go with the flow?
I think this is all just a lot of hoopla. I've been reading my books on paper for 68 years, and I'm not about to change that now.
Okay, so let's see the meaning of the real talk. The word logging, so that comes from the verb log. When you log something, you carry it, like the grandma is carrying, is logging the book. And we have the verb ditch, to leave or to get rid of. So in that scenario, Edward is advising his grandma to ditch the book, the paper book, to leave it, to get rid of this. And we have this phrasal verb check out. It means to look at something in order to evaluate and assess it. And we have this expression, go with the flow. So it means to accept things as they are, to go with the majority of people. And finally, we have that word hoopla. So it means excitement created by publicity, by the majority of people, by the mainstream. So one more time, lugging, carrying, ditch, leave, check out, look at something, go with the flow, accept things, hoopla, excitement. Let's answer some questions related to this conversation and pause the video, try to answer yourself, then check the answers after me. Great. So let's see the answers. The first question, what does Edward want Grandma to try? So he wants her to try reading on an electronic book reader. Number two, what arguments does he make? E-book readers can hold hundreds of books. You can buy, download, and start reading a book in minutes. Is Edward successful in persuading his grandma? Why or why not? Edward doesn't persuade his grandma. She doesn't want to change her idea. Great. Let's move to another task. And in that task, as you see in this picture, That's the difference between two types of news format. We have the paper one or the printed one, and we have the online and electronic one. Now we will listen to some information about the future of newspapers. And your job is to complete this chart with the advantages and disadvantages of each news format. What's good, what's positive about each news format, and what's negative about each news format, print, online, and electronic. So let's listen.
Since the early 17th century, newspapers have had the same general format. The news has been printed in ink on paper. Then the newspapers have been circulated to a particular area. However, the internet brought great change to the newspaper industry. To stay competitive, it became important to have an online presence. Today, most major newspapers around the world have an online version of their print paper. Online newspapers present some important advantages. For example, they can present up to the minute news instead of having to wait to print the next edition of the paper. An advantage to the reader is that most online news sources are free. However, it seems almost certain that there are further changes ahead for the way newspapers are presented and sold. Most people in the newspaper industry feel that the next step will be electronic newspapers. Electronic newspapers would use technology related to today's electronic book readers. Like these readers, e-newspapers would use e-ink. Like a computer screen, e-ink has the ability to instantly refresh and change images. However, e-ink uses paper instead of a computer screen, so e-ink images look more like the images in actual books and newspapers. The electronic newspaper will have the look and feel of a print newspaper in other ways as well. It will be as large as the typical print newspaper, with a lightweight portable screen that is flexible enough to be rolled or folded like a newspaper. The e-newspaper will combine these advantages of print newspapers with the advantages of online media, such as constant and instant updates, interactivity, and video capability. Replacing print newspapers with the e-newspapers will mean that newspaper companies would no longer have the enormous costs of printing, manufacturing, and delivering newspapers. This will mean tremendous savings. One newspaper publisher predicts by 2030 we will have shifted to an electronic format and we will have stopped printing paper newspapers completely. When that day comes, newspapers are going to go back to being the most important source of news to the public.
Okay, so once more, try to answer yourself, then uh, check the right answers with me. Great. Let's see the answers. So what about what's positive about the print newspapers? It's large, it's lightweight, it's portable. What's negative? What's bad about print newspapers? Not up to the minute news, not free, of course. What's good about online newspapers? Free, up to the minute news, interactivity, video capability. What's bad? What's negative about online computer screen graphics? Let's move to the electronic version. What's good about the electronic newspapers? So, look more like paper than a computer screen, large, lightweight, portable, savings for newspapers. Great. Let's move to one last task, and that task is a pronunciation practice and activity. It's about what we call in English consonant clusters. So, what do you mean by consonant clusters? Consonant clusters contain or include two or three consonants, like these examples: broken, plan, understand, street, spray, hungry. So the point is be careful not to separate the consonants in a cluster with a vowel sound or add a vowel sound before the cluster. So don't try to add another vowel sound before or in the middle of the consonant cluster. Okay, so say it fast, say it quick. Let's read the words once more. Broken, plan, understand, straight, spray, hungry. We have got some examples here. We will listen and try to repeat after the speaker. 2. Practice saying the consonant clusters in the good way.
1. The internet brought great change to the newspaper industry. 2. To stay competitive, it soon became important to have an online presence. 3. Newspapers could present up-to-the-minute news instead of having to wait to print it. 4. The electronic newspaper reader will have the look and feel of a print newspaper. 5. It will have a portable screen that is flexible. 6. One newspaper publisher predicts, by 2030, we will have stopped printing paper newspapers completely.
So one more time. When we have consonant clusters, consonants that come together one after another, try not to add any extra sound, any vowel sound before or in the middle of the consonant clusters. And that's at the end of the session. See you in next videos.